Hey traders, welcome back to another Sunday video where we take a look at trading setups that I'm looking at for the week ahead from both a macro / fundamental side of view as well as a technical basis as well. Within this video, we're going to be taking a look at indices. We'll look at gold, silver, and we'll also talk a little bit about currencies, all in today's video. All I ask is that if you enjoy my content, do me a big favor and just hit the thumbs up button on the video. It really just does help to support on the YouTube algorithm. With that said, let's jump into some charts here. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the dollar index. Dollar index last week continued its march to the heavens, it seems like, and pretty good reason behind that. If we take a look at what we saw on the jobs market side of things last week, just to give you a bit of a high level view, jobs numbers smashed expectations. They were very strong compared to what was forecast. We saw 164,000 jobs forecast in the United States. We actually got 256,000 overall. So jobs data came in really solid, which helped to kind of support the dollar's upward trend. And actually, we saw midweek this little pullback into support. Buyers came rushing in and we pushed to actually end pretty close to the highs for the previous week. Price action here looks well supported. Bulls look very, very strong and continue to be very strong. I mean, this is a long-term winning uptrend at this point now, going back all the way since, September of last year. We've seen the dollar bottom out, reverse course, and continue higher. And to go with that dollar story for a second, we can take a look at yields, which look very similar. This is the U.S. 10-year government bond yields. We can see it's breaking out here around the 4.7 level. That was a really key area of resistance looking left. Well, last week we actually broke through that, and that was a significant move for bonds. And actually, if we take a look at bonds, you can see TLT continue to sell off. It's been in a downward trend here for the last few months. Big downward move, a little bit of a reversal in yields, and then the follow through here. So this is definitely causing some issues for many markets out there. I want to take a look as we get started here in this week's analysis video. I want to take a look at where we are on the top setups page. I do this. This is, of course, the system that I use to help find the trades that I take. The Edge Finder is kind of the engine behind what I do. So if I take a look at this chart, what we can see here is that we've got some things that are landing in the bullish camp. We've got S&P, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, Euro, Pound, Dollar Swiss, Dollar ZAR, Dollar CAD, US oil. And you'll notice on the currency side, since we've started heavy on the currencies this week, you can see a lot of US dollar bullishness on the top side. On the bearish side, you've got same kind of story, Euro dollar, Pound dollar, Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar, all getting very bearish readings. I mean, this is a really strong, consistent theme across the board. Dollar strength has been an Edge Finder call out for the last few weeks. And if you've been riding that trend, it has been very, very strong. Speaking of which, we have been sharing all of our trades inside of the VIP Discord. If you're not in there, this is a great time to mention that we're currently doing a major discount. We're doing 30% off right now. And the promo code down below in the description, YTVIP, will get you that discount. So if you want to see every trade that I'm taking inside of the group, everything gets shared in our journal here. I trade FX in here. I also trade commodities, indices, ETFs, stocks, and options. And we have a couple other traders that are leaders within our group. We have Frank, Chris Pulver, and Ivan. All of their trades get shared inside of our Discord channel. If you're not already in the Discord and you would like to join us for this week's price action, I mean, this is going to be a huge week. We have CPI, PPI, and some UK numbers coming out this week. If you're not already in the group and haven't taken advantage of a discount in the past, this is a huge discount to start out of the year. Get 30% off. All the information will be down below in the description and in the pinned comment of today's video. So come join us. Should be a really big week. I'm really excited because with all these setups, we're going to be active in there. So let me just give you also kind of an idea here with the Edge Finder, how I'm using this. So what I'm looking for is I pretty much do that filter that I just showed you. I'm taking out the neutrals. I'm looking for bullish and bearish readings. And then I go to the charts and I look for these setups, right? I look for, hey, the S&P 500 is printing bullish on the Edge Finder. Can I find a technical reading to go with that? And this is the first week in a while, guys, that we're getting all three of the US indices printing a bullish read. Let's go take a look at the indices because, again, they're in some interesting positional spots right now. So if we switch over to the S&P 500, I actually initiated a buy position on Friday here Now, I may be a little bit early to this trade, but I like my risk to reward here on the S&P 500. Specifically, this level of support, I am taking a stab at being long here. If this does not work out, like if we just completely fall through the floor here, then I'm going to go ahead and quickly stop out of the S&P 500 and take a controlled loss. But I do like my odds here of a reversal to the upside. We've had a bit of a pullback the last few weeks, some choppy price action, but I wouldn't call what we're in a bearish price action kind of shift. We've seen, yes, some lower highs and some struggle on this, but watch how price has held this area so nicely the last few weeks, each time price comes down to that 58.50 level. So I have a buy position right around this area. If the markets can reverse course this week and start to rise, what I'd be looking for is a breakout of this downward trend structure. And if we can break to new highs, I'll look to really lock in a profit on this position. And what I mean by that is I like to trail stops. So if we get some higher lows, higher highs, I may look to start trailing my stop loss into profit. But for now, I really like the pullback here. And if it becomes a bigger pullback, no worries. I will stop out, take a controlled loss, and look for better entries on some really key levels that I wouldn't mind taking additional stabs at. I really like this 56.60 level if we saw a bigger drop in the S&P 500. I'm really interested in that myself, but I'll be trading indices this week for sure with such strong readings on the Edge Finder right now. I'm going to be watching the Dow and the NASDAQ as well. Take a look at the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ kind of took out the lows here, did not hold up as well, and I actually like the price action on the S&P 500 a little bit better here. If you see how this candle closed on Friday, you know, it wasn't a terrible close. It wasn't great, but we didn't take out those lows and just close below. There's actually some impressive bounce back that happened within the intraday candles. And if we take a look at the hourly chart, you'll see what I've been talking about there. We came down to those lows, shot off of them, but what I'm really curious about with the S&P, NAS, and Dow is, okay, you had this little midday reversal. Are we going to go through those lows on Monday and continue lower? If so, then we might have some issues. But if we're kind of printing this ugly higher low formation going into the week ahead, you know, that could be a bottoming signal. And here's the thing with these indices. Usually bottoming signals are very quick and then sudden, right? So they look ugly and then all of a sudden they're just ripping through those highs once more. So I do like the upside to NASDAQ as well, but the S&P 500 chart just looks a little bit more clear. I have this very key level of support. I know what I'm supposed to do if this thing cannot hold levels of support. And again, my system is giving me some confirmation here to look for the long side on the S&P 500. So of course, I'm going to respect what I do. I have a really, you know, I wouldn't call my approach an easy way to make money in the markets because nothing is easy, but a simplistic approach. I pull up the Edge Finder's top setups algorithm. I look across this and I look for technical setups that marry up the fundamental economic data and technical and sentiment readings that the Edge Finder is tracking for me with my technical analysis and risk management process. And that is what I do day in, day out. I keep it simple. I follow the Edge Finder. I look for entries that match my technical style and I manage risk appropriately. So I like the setups here for the indices. I also like the idea of taking a look at potentially getting long oil. I want to talk about this as a bit of a, bit of a reversal in this downward trend. You take a look at this thing, it's been in a rough kind of sell period, choppy downtrend for a while. That was until this previous week where we had this kind of major breakout, and I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO here because I was looking at this thing for a pullback. If you watch my videos, you know I was looking at this area for a reversal to the upside and didn't quite get the pullback. We came really close, didn't get the entry though. So I am still back to watching and waiting on oil. I do like the momentum that we're seeing here. Big tick higher on Friday, kind of a weird wick, but this was some geopolitical stuff that came out between US and Russia. I do think that, you know, with oil making these breakouts to the upside, I like to trade momentum a lot on oil because trying to fight momentum on oil is difficult. Commodities, when moving with a lot of momentum, are like a freight train, just like indices. So I prefer the long side for now. Longer term, I think I get a little bit more rocky about, a little bit more bearish on oil with Donald Trump returning. He wants to drill a lot of oil. That is a story that I think could play out in the back half of 2025. But for now, the momentum is to the upside, and we have a lot of strong economic reads, which are giving us this confirmation on the Edge Finder, right? When you look at the economic data, notice how for oil, it's giving us these strong confirmations pretty much across the board for U.S. economic data. So I'm looking at this as an opportunity to potentially get long on some pullbacks with some tight stops and trying to trade that momentum. So really like that. Going to continue to watch oil as a top setup for this week ahead. Again, when I talk about my system here, I am looking for clear, very obvious, very bullish readings, which basically to get us these high scores, we're looking at a lot of things on the technical, economic, and sentiment marrying up, right? This is kind of the ultimate confluence tool, which helps traders spot those opportunities. So again, when you guys watch my videos and you see me talk about the Edge Finder, I show you these ideas which are generated from the Edge Finder. The core of my trading strategy is using what the Edge Finder is telling me and then looking for proper entries and exits to manage my positions accordingly. So got some US oil potential setups, looking specifically for oil to pull back to this 38.2. I'd probably take a stab on the long side if we can get this pullback. And if I take that trade, like I said earlier, you'll get that notification inside of our Discord channel if you're a member of our Discord. So, watching to see if I can get that pullback here this week. We'll see how that plays out. Might drop down to the 4-hour chart and watch it there, but daily chart still looks really good. We're coming up into this key resistance level. I'd either like to buy the pullback personally or look for a break through those highs and a pullback there. I like both setups, and as long as we continue to get that confirmation from our system here, I'll stay with the trade or the idea. Let's talk about dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss, I played a lot here recently, and it's a top setup currently. It's been a top setup. This one trades really close to the dollar index. The dollar index and the dollar Swiss move very closely correlated, and so I've been just trading this one to the long side. It's one of my favorite currency pairs to trade. It offers a positive swap when you hold it long for the overnight rollover period. So I've been long this thing. I actually bought the dip and closed at these highs. So obviously with Friday's data, I should have continued holding, but hindsight is 2020. I did go ahead and just lock in some profits, took a quick trade here, entered right there, stopped or took profits right here. And I'll show you just for context, what that trade actually looked like within the Discord. So we had this big sell-off on news, right? There was a little bit of, Donald Trump's not going to do as many tariffs. And then, I actually entered on that when we saw the dollar sharply lower on that day. I basically picked up an initial position, and by the afternoon, that trade was deep in profit. And then I ended up taking profits. So you can see where I took the trade and then ended up closing it out there for a profit, sharing that with members. So that's just an example. Like I said, if you're considering joining the VIP group, I know I keep mentioning it, but I'd love to have some more of you guys join us in the server there in Discord, see the trades that we're taking, and join the chat room. We also do offer a chat room for our members. But going forward for dollar Swiss, I'll be looking for pullbacks. And then if we do get some larger scale pullbacks on this one, I may look to trade this again. I may look to get back in on the dollar cost averaging side of going long USD CHF. I still really like this level of support. It clearly worked out very well last week. Let's see if we can get a retest of that area, in which case I'll probably, as long as we continue to see that confirmation signal from the Edge Finder, look to get long there. You can see commitment of traders data was very positive for dollar Swiss. So let's actually take a look at that now. So if we take a look at the commitment of traders data that the Edge Finder showcases us, this is a great way to keep tabs on what institutional money is doing. What are they buying? What are they selling? Basically, the commitment of traders tab within the Edge Finder allows us to do that pretty easily. So you've got gold, the Nikkei, oil, silver, NASDAQ. These are some of your most heavily long on a proportional basis side of things from institutional money. If we flip to the bearish side, CAD, Kiwi, Swiss franc, Aussie, and 10-year treasuries all look to be most shorted on a percentage basis by institutional money. So again, big money is over here and over here on the long and short side of things. They also added some big positions to the Nikkei, which I thought was really interesting. Also CAD, NZD, and gold got some nice buying here in the previous week. This section down here, by the way, is a great way to look at the week to week, like what did they most actively buy in the latest reporting? And that could be really useful for short-term traders. So gold, Kiwi, CAD, Nikkei, US dollar. Those were some of your biggest pickups for the week. Take a look at some of the biggest sells. There was Dow Jones, JPY, the Japanese yen, the Swiss franc, platinum, silver, a little bit of NASDAQ selling as well. So there is a little bit of the overview of what commitment of traders data looks like for this week in terms of institutional money, and we'll continue to monitor that closely. I also want to take a look with you guys. I've been talking a lot about this, but it does play a key component to what I look at when I'm talking about currency pairs. We've been looking at the retail sentiment indicator a lot. This helps us to look at what what retail money is doing with major currency pairs like the Kiwi against the dollar, the Aussie dollar, the Euro dollar, the pound dollar. And what we see here is a pretty consistent theme. Retail is trying to call a bottom on these dollar crosses, and it's been weeks since they've been doing that, actually months even, where these currency pairs, if you're someone who watches currencies predominantly, continue to move lower, and yet retail traders keep calling a bottom. In fact, on my Twitter, I even pointed out a very high probability when we started to pull back. I pointed out a very high probability that we would go back and retest these lows. We did that instantly, like we snapped back in the next day or two. So my point was saying that is that, again, retail traders are trying so desperately to call the bottom on this euro dollar and pound dollar move, and the easy money has been just shorting, going against retail sentiment. So we keep a tab on that, right? We watch that close, not to be cynical or evil or anything. It's just that if you see the retail crowd piling into one side of the trade, oftentimes, not always, but often enough, there's some good moves to actually be had fading retail positioning and following closer with what institutional money is doing. This is why sentiment is a big component to what the Edge Finder shows us. So just something to think about as we go into this week. I also do want to take a look at gold and silver. So let's take a look at gold. Gold continues to chop around, but very impressive price action. I gotta say, one of the most impressive weeks on record for me with gold. And I say that because although gold is not breaking all-time highs or anything, what's so impressive about this is we just got done talking about how strong the US dollar is, and yet gold is holding up well, right? Usually when the dollar is really strong, it puts pressure on gold. It's just a natural thing. Gold is priced in dollars, so if the dollar is strengthening massively, it should cause some pressure on gold. But it's not always the case that that is the way it is. In fact, on Friday, we get that big spike in oil prices. Gold coincided with it because there was some geopolitical risk, right? Between Russia and the US, there were sanctions that got added to the oil stuff. So gold kind of got buoyed higher off of geopolitical uncertainty. And, very impressive price action considering we had a very strong jobs data print, which put pressure on many other currencies against the US dollar. So just really impressive price action from gold. If we get some dollar weakening, if that yields, if the 10-year yield starts to cool off, gold, in my opinion, is going to fly. Now, we don't know that it's going to happen, but if the dollar cools off, if it takes a break and we see 10-year yields falling, gold, I think, will be right back snapping up to the highs once more. I think that that's very possible. I actually think that by end of year, I've talked about gold as a yearly end target of 3,000 being pretty reasonable for gold. If you do start to see dollar weakness, if you see some rate cuts come back into the picture, gold could easily hit 3,000, if not higher. Now, of course, if the Fed's not going to cut rates whatsoever this year, which is now the fear with all this strong economic data, why does the Fed need to cut? The economy's doing great. Why do we need to cut rates? No rate cuts, bearish for gold. But although that is the thesis, gold has held up really well. So maybe it's no rate cuts, gold goes kind of sideways. If we get lots of rate cuts, gold skyrockets. That's kind of where I'm at with gold for this year. That's why my average target for end of year is 3,000. If you told me, oh, we're going to get lots of rate cuts this year, then easily 3,400 for gold make a lot of sense. But if you're talking about no rate cuts this year, then gold, I don't see it going very far at all. Although I don't see it going down massively because we still have geopolitical risk. The easier trade for me this year, currently speaking, is on the long side for gold. I'll continue to look for signals from the Edge Finder. I'm not going to take trades on gold until I get Edge Finder confirmation. And if we go take a look at let's add in neutral readings here, you can see gold is getting a very neutral score of -1. So we don't really have any confirmation there just yet. With US economic data really strong and the dollar keeping us at bay, that's going to be holding me back from getting long long gold. I want to see dollar weakness before I really get invested in kind of focusing the gold trade once more. But I just wanted to give you that context because I know a lot of my audience loves to talk about gold. I am watching it every single day. Just because I'm not trading it does not mean I am constantly watching gold. I watch it all the time, just like I watch all these markets all the time. I am not a singular chart specialist. I'm a macro trader, which means I trade a little bit of everything, and I love it that way because then I can find setups. Even if gold is chopping in a range for the last couple of months, there's still tons of other things to trade out there. And in my opinion, limiting yourself to just saying, oh, I only trade gold is fine, but then you might have a couple weeks where you don't take many trades. And for me, as an active trader, I want to have positions that have profitability to them setting up all the time, not just, a couple months, right? If you're somebody who made a lot of money during last year's gold rush run, then great, but you may have found it more challenging as we've entered into a consolidation zone here to the recent times that we've seen. So, broadening your scope, adding more things to your watch list like I do. I mean, look this is my watch list. I have a ton of things that I can trade. I trade currencies, I trade commodities, I trade indices, and I'm watching for setups, right? So if I look at like dollar crosses, I have a ton of setups that could potentially form for me. And this is what I love about the Edge Finder is it helps me to monitor so many things at once. Now, euro dollar, no pullbacks here. I can't really trade this yet. If you give me a bigger kind of, let's say this week is bullish for the euro, great. That could actually give me some setups that I could watch for. Pound dollar, same thing. I mean, this thing is a really nice sell setup, but not at these current levels. I need to wait for that pullback. Kiwi dollar, dollar CAD pullbacks. I like these currency setups, but I need those pullbacks to occur. As long as we get the check mark from the Edge Finder and I get the right technical setup, I have lots of things to watch and potentially trade going into this week. So definitely going to continue to watch a lot of charts here. I am most active on the indices because they're pulling back to levels that I like, and we're getting bullish confirmations. So I like the indices right now, but it changes week to week, month to month. So like I said, everything I trade gets shared inside of our Discord. I want to just remind you and invite you to come join our Discord for a huge discount. It is 30% off with the code YTVIP, which is all pinned in the comment section and linked down below in this video. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful to you to get you ready for this week ahead, and we'll see you back on the next one.